Mr. Phillips next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses. I'll start with a few obvious truths, one of which is I'm terribly disappointed that Secretary Pompeo once again chooses not to be with us, stonewalls our efforts to provide important oversight on some terribly important issues that we and the rest of the world face. I'm terribly disturbed by Vladimir Putin's ongoing provocations and aggression, all with impunity, and particularly disturbed and disgusted by the possibility that Russians provided bounties to the Taliban to kill American servicemen and women. I will not try to continue the litigation of whether it's true or not. We've done so, but I want to turn to a couple of questions. One of which is perhaps General Nicholson, if you might begin. Is it even possible that the GRU operates independently of Vladimir Putin?
I'll give you my perspective with great respect for Director Morell and Dr. Wallander and Dr. Brzezinski. They understand the Russians extremely well. There's an almost, my perception, there's an almost feudal set of relationships inside Russia. On one level, you could view it that way. People like to deliver outcomes to the center, to the czar, if you will, or to Putin, that they think he will like, that will curry favor. So there is a dimension to this where people will act independently on what they think the boss wants and deliver that to him. And so I think that it is possible that there can be independent actors within this system doing things that others in the system might view as reckless or irresponsible.
Thank you, sir. Do any of our witnesses see it differently?
I agree exactly with General Nicholson's analysis. I would point out that the GRU has engaged in multiple operations that have been exposed, and they've not been pulled back. And so from that, I take it that while those operations may not have been ordered, they may have been about pleasing the boss, may have been about creative implementation of general directives. We nonetheless should hold the Russian leadership accountable because they haven't, if they didn't like it, they didn't stop it. So therefore, they own it.
Well said. I couldn't agree more. Some of you have spoken, Director Morell, you spoke about Putin's greatest fear is his middle class in Russia turning against him. Mr. Brzezinski, you talked about the need for a strategy of disruption and creating uncertainty. I think we would all agree that if we intend to do so, and we should, it must be in conjunction with our allies. And I'd welcome perspectives from each of you in my remaining time relative to the state of affairs with our allies. Are we in a position right now with our relationships to do so? Do our allies trust us, or are those relationships compromised and perhaps presenting a challenge to some cooperation in that respect?
I'll jump in here, sir. Having led a 41-nation coalition that is built around the core of NATO, I would tell you, having served in NATO multiple times, it's one of our most important sources of strength in the national security arena. And the protection, if you will, of that cohesion and that strength of the alliance is paramount for our national security. And I know we in uniform took that very seriously. And indeed, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, if you will, especially when it comes to the legitimacy of our actions. It's not just adding up GDPs, adding up military capability, which is significant and gives us enormous strategic advantage over Russia. It's the legitimacy that comes with having 41 nations together in Afghanistan. That is an important source of strength.
But sir, if I might ask, would you say that those relationships are less strong than they perhaps were as short as a few years ago?
Well, candidly, as a leader within NATO, I was concerned that some of the comments we saw and some of the pressure being put on key allies within NATO it risks our cohesion. Having said that, It is true that many of our allies have not met their obligation to spend 2% of their GDP on their defense, and their readiness has suffered because of it. So it's not a black or white issue. I mean, the allies, given the threat posed by Russia, do need to invest more in their readiness and in their modernization. The way we go about it, though, I think needs to reinforce our cohesion, not undermine.
Thank you, sir. Director Morell, I'd welcome your perspective on our our allies, our relationships, and whether that's been eroded over the last few years.
So, sir, I've had many conversations with foreign officials who I used to deal with, and almost to a person, whether in Europe, the Middle East, or Asia, they're concerned about their relationship with the United States. And they tell me that because of that, they need to hedge, and that hedging includes increased conversations with both China and Russia. So I hear that almost constantly.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr. Yield back.